everyone, it's Rita with Everything Homemade, and today we are going to plant. And for me, this is one of the most exciting parts, is when you see your starter plants are big enough to go into the hydroponic solutions. So we are going to have a lot of fun here, and I'm going to show you different ways that we're going to do this. First, an update right over here. Look at the lettuce. We are ready to harvest. This is the 4th time now. Every time we cut this lettuce, I give it some go-go juice, some commercial starter fertilizer, and some goose and duck, and they continue to be neck and neck. So it is so cool to do this experiment. I mean, the plants are happy and healthy and taste delicious. So first I want to say once again, thank you so much to Bloom Plus for sending this awesome grow light for me to test out. It is doing phenomenal. As you can see over there, I did put the grow light on a timer because it's really hard to remember to turn it off and on all the time, and this way I don't got to think about it. Timers are very inexpensive. It was like 10 bucks at a hardware store. So that's one thing we did add here, but it is doing phenomenal. And you can tell by the plants, they're doing great. So if you would like to purchase this grow light, all the links are in the description box below, and it's really easy to order it, and they have very quick shipping. It is also 50% off on eBay right now. So before we start planting, let's just do a little recap of what I've got going on here. We are going to plant some of the first seeds that we put in to the different kind of solutions. We have plants that are ready. So this one here is actually some Swiss chard growing through the sponge that I did an experiment just by dropping the seed in the sponge. So it's coming up nicely. It's just in water at the moment. Then we have some plants here in some goose/duck manure. We got some plants. This one is, let me just turn this so I can see. This one's in manure. So we got a beautiful looking plant there. And then we have a plant over here that is in some rabbit manure. We got a few more Swiss chard plants that are in the Jiffy pots. And then we have a larger plant here. Lettuce plant here in a Jiffy pot, and another Swiss chard. With the ones that I already planted into the passive hydroponic solution, the one in the goose poo, as you can see, it is doing phenomenal. Take a look at it. Beautiful color. I will show you the roots when I have my camera on the tripod, and I will show you how the roots are growing. We have this little guy right here. That one's in manure, and then we have this one here which was started much earlier than the rest. It was actually this guy's counterpart, and you can see the roots going crazy here. So I actually put it into this one with the rabbit because we lost the other plant that was originally in here. I'm not too sure why, but even in nature, some plants are stronger than others. So this one here, once again, show you the root system, just about to touch the rabbit manure in there. So those are doing really well. The other thing, in our sprouter, we also have some more Swiss chard plants that we're going to put in through the sponges. Another little bit different method. So these are ready because they are going to be growing taller than my sprouter, can handle it. The other thing is we're going to be utilizing what my husband made here. Take a look how he made it. So what's really cool about this box is that I have 6 separate containers, and these are just actually 1 kilogram peanut butter containers, but because I'm doing an experiment and I'm doing all these kind of manures teas, it separates it nicely, and you can have my little net cup at the top. Let's get started. So this is the one that's in the goose manure, and you can see the roots. You take a look at that and you can see the growth the roots have made, and that's a really good sign. Now this little one is in the manure, and again I'm just going to remove another of the clay ball so when I lift it up, and you can see right there the beautiful root dangling there, and again you can see the little tiny roots coming off of that, and it's doing really good. I always find at this stage when plants are little, oh, they grow, I always wish they grew faster. But patience. And then when they get bigger, they get going. Okay, so another one here. This is the one that I started in the Jiffy pot, and it's gonna be hitting the rabbit manure fairly quickly. So let's just lift it up. And you can see, if I tip it a bit, you can see the roots. So it's just about, I would say, give it about 4 or 5 more days and it's going to start touching the rabbit tea. So that's a really good sign. And what I want to note too, out of all of these, there is no algae growing in any of them. So the tin foil is doing exactly what I need it to do. Okay, so the first order of business that I need to take care of is putting the different solutions into my containers. Now, when you're doing an experiment like I am, it's really important to start labeling. So I have some painter's tape here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of tape in between each one of these to tell me which manure I used. And otherwise I am absolutely going to forget. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go goose on this side here. I'm going to put R for rabbit here. Then I'm going to go goat, and I'm going to write the word goat because obviously goat starts with a G as well. So I'm going to put a goat manure there. Then I also have a commercial starter, so I'm going to put a C for commercial starter. Then I'm going to put an M here for just the manure mix or compost mix, and then we have one more once again. So we can randomly just go, let's just go what? We'll just go goose. Okay, here, and now we need to start filling things up. Okay, so now that we have that box just put out of the way, I'm going to just grab some net cups here. And these are really handy and very affordable. Plus, they're really flexible. So unless you're really rammy with it or something happens, these will last a long time. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab some sponges. Now these are just like the sponges you use for cleaning, and what I've done is just cut little pieces, and then I cut one side to basically the middle or just shy of it. So this is where you're gonna actually put your plant if you don't have it already in a sponge, or let's say in a Jiffy pot or anything else, any other growing medium. Now these here are Swiss chard, and what I want to do is I want to grab one of these that got some really long roots on them, Now this is a bit of a delicate procedure, especially when you're sprouting, because the plants are very fragile. What's nice about Swiss chard is that it's a bigger plant, and therefore the seedlings are a little bit sturdier. They've got a nice thick stem already, so it makes it a little bit easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my sponge here, and I am going to pick a plant, and I'm going to grab this one right here. Oh, no, not that one. This one, I'm looking for the one with this really long root. There you go. See that long root? Like, wow, look at that. So what I want to do is not drop it. Right there. So what I want to do is get this sponge right here is what my goal is. So I'm going to hold this open. And you can feel how fragile they are in your hands. Okay. And I should be able just to open it, give it a little shake. Come on there. There you go. And basically it closes in around it, so it just basically sturdies it, but leaves the roots dangling, just like that. So now I want to take my net cup here, and what I want to do is just gently, it actually, oh, you see how that sticks? It's like it's attracted to the sides, which might be a little bit problematic for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spray the root here, so it maybe has more of a neutral charge, and so it dangles a little better. And I have never done this, so this is my first go at it. I'm literally doing it fresh for you guys, so I'm just spraying my net cup there, and you can see now that my root is going down straighter. Now that it's hanging there and my little plant is in the middle, what I'm going to do to sturdy it is drop a little of these clay pellets in there on each side, just like that, just to make sure that sponge basically doesn't move. I don't want it moving, because if it moves too much, then what's going to happen is it's going to break my root. Then my plant's dead. So what I want to make sure of is that when it goes down, that it's touching the water solution. And I'm just kind of visually looking at it, and it is. So since it is touching, which I'm very happy about, I'm going to go ahead, place that lid back on, and drop this guy in. Just like that. And I'm going to do all Swiss chard into this box. And what I'm going to do is take this one out of the sponge, and you can see Swiss chard is related to the red beet family, and with one seed you can get multiple plants out of one seed. This kind of actually, when you plant a red beet seed, it's actually multiple seeds stuck together, and you can see its roots. The roots aren't that big, but I'm going to just bring up the water level until these start dangling, and then I'll adjust the water level so that it can get some air roots. But I'm going to plop this one in just like that. This method here I find a little bit easier and less finicky. And then I'm just going to drop in a couple of these clay marble, or a couple of these clay balls. And I kind of just shove it to one side and then just fill in the rest. There we go. One, it kind of helps the light from penetrating. Two, it again just keeps the sponge from moving. So I'm going to put this one in the rabbit, and again I'm going to have to add a little bit more liquid just to bring up the level to touch the sponge until those roots start to dangle into the manure tea. Okay, another net cup, and let's do one that is planted in a jiffy pot. And again, you can see the roots coming at the bottom. They're not dangling, they're kind of circling the pot. I might be able to loosen this one. There you go. And get it dangling. And once again, drop a couple of these in. There we go. Okay, so you can see that little root right there. So now that I have all of these planted, and they are all Swiss chard, and why I wanted to do that was because I have a Swiss chard plant in every single solution, and they are grown in different ways, but it's the same plant. So sometimes other plants would do better, let's say in a rabbit or a goat, but this is just across the board. Do we have any differences in the fertilizer that you use? Or can you actually use multiple different kind of fertilizers to get the same result? So that's what I'm mostly after. So what I want to do now is I want to adjust the liquid on this one. The ones in the Jiffy containers, even if there's a gap and the roots aren't actually going into the solution right now, that's okay because they can live in this medium until the roots dangle below. So that's not a problem. It's just a matter of keeping this moist until it does that. This one, on the other hand, is just in that sponge. So if this sponge dries out, the plant will die until it reaches that solution. And we don't got any roots showing at the bottom. So what I want to do is raise the level on this one here, just enough to touch that sponge, just to keep it moist until those roots fall through the net cup and into the solution. Then I will decrease the solution and leave that gap in between the net cup and the fertilizer so that there's a air gap basically between it. That's what you want because of those air roots. You want the plant to make air roots in this passive system. Air roots go up instead of down, so it collects the oxygen from the air around it instead of like from the ground instead. So it's really important. But right now we're at a critical stage because we're not quite ready for those roots to drop, and we're in a sponge as well. So it dries out much quicker than, let's say, one of these Jiffy pots over here. Okay, so when I look down, I can see the sponge hitting it, and that is perfect. So I'm going to leave it as that. Okay, so I made some space here. So I can still grow in this entire area right here. What I need to do now is plant this one into a net cup. I already have the black cement in the rabbit manure and the compost manure, but I want to see what it will do with a goat manure. So I just grabbed a canning jar, and these are wide mouth mason jars, and they fit perfectly in wide mouth mason jars. The nice thing is with jars you can see exactly what's happening. That's one thing I do like about them. So let's go ahead and fill this up with the goat manure. Okay, I'm just going to check my level, and that is perfect. You can see right here there is a gap between the net cup and the solution. I just want to put a few of these clay balls in, once again to stabilize the plant and again to block the light from penetrating from above. And I'm finding that's a really important part to preventing algae from growing, and you don't need a ton. So that looks really good there. And what I'm going to do is just spray the plant because it's a little bit dry, just like that. I'm not too worried if a little bit of dirt goes into my cup. You don't want tons, but you're going to get some. And then basically I'm going to wrap this one with tin foil or aluminum foil, just like I did the rest. If you take a look, we still got lots of Swiss chard to go, and so what I'm going to continue to do is plant all of these into jars and see what happens. So another thought that I had was using yogurt containers, and this would eliminate the net cup and the need for the clay balls. So basically what I did here was, obviously I took a 750 milliliter yogurt container. I cut an area to insert the sponge and the plant. So what looks like in here is some goat manure, then its root is dangling in it. So that's what I did here. And I apologize, I did a whole bunch of them, but something technical went with the film and I was unable to open it, so I'm just kind of recapping here what I did. So how did I make these? So basically, I just made an X on top, big enough for my sponge to go in to it, just to open it up nicely. Nothing fancy. There you have it. And then I just bent it back, the flaps. Because sponges are squishy, I just inserted my plant and then all I did was press my sponge into the middle, and then my plant came out, which would look like this one here, and again would look like all of these ones here. And so I figured I would try this out because so many people have yogurt containers and they're really easy to get. And sponges are easy to get, so really this is very cost effective as well, as you are recycling a product that isn't going to go into your landfill at the same time. So hey, it's a win-win there, I think, anyway. So I'm going to experiment with this as well. So I filmed before supper, then we had supper, did some chores, so we're about 3 hours later. And I noticed that the little Swiss chard plant that is in goose manure is in shock. Basically, it's lying down limp. Not dead, just limp. So hopefully tomorrow morning. The other side, same thing with the goose, is down. And we will see what happens when I wake up tomorrow. Oh dear, this poor little guy is not gonna make it. And I noticed this all with all the Swiss chard plants that I planted in the goose solution. They're all down, and that's not cool. Okay, so my guess is the solution is too strong and it's killing them, while all the rest are up and happy, and everything else that I planted and all the other solutions are doing just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take half of the solution out and just pour clean water in it and totally dilute it, and then replant new plants and see what happens. So this is a really interesting finding that I really didn't expect. I just transplanted those. Remember, you just saw that. And we are 6 hours later and they're completely down again. And I only have a cup of the diluted solution, plus then I diluted it again. So I'm thinking that this has got to do with it being Swiss chard, that it just can't handle it. Because all the Swiss chard ones, they're all drooping. Everything else is fine. If I dilute it again, I'm basically gonna have nothing left. I'm looking here. This one is a romaine, and this one here is the black Simpson that I'm growing in the dirt, and they have no problem with the duck/goose manure. But yet the Swiss chard is having a severe problem with it. Even with me diluting it even further, it's still flatlined. So I'm thinking we got a case here that the Swiss chard is just really sensitive, particularly to the goose duck manure. Why? I'm not too sure. The lettuce, it's doing fantastic. I'm actually watering it with the goose manure. But it just seems that the Swiss chard is having an issue. So I'm going to replant these two ones with something else. Right now I don't have anything to plop into their containers, but when I do have something that is going to germinate here, I will. What I do want to try is maybe one of these, just because they're in a pot and they're a little bit more mature before they go into the goose manure tea, and maybe that'll make a difference. Maybe they need to be having a little bit more mature roots to handle it. That's just a guess, but I'm going to try that hypothesis and see what happens. But for right now, I don't have anything more to go into these. So I'm just going to have to wait, and I really need to order some new seeds. I don't have much lettuce seed left, so I'm thinking about putting in an order with Heritage Seeds out of Manitoba, more Black Simpson, because this here is one of our favorites. Next video, I'll keep you posted on how everything is growing. We'll see what happens, how much things have grown within a week or so here. And I will show you, hopefully I'll be able to show you some really healthy roots. So thank you so much for following me on this experiment, and thanks again to Bloom Plus for this awesome grow light. If you are interested in a really good grow light, you can check out the links in the description box below. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.